stairwell there, kitchen right over here. Our CPR designation will be provided by Ariana. Rest locations outside the boardroom next to stairwell, right out here. We have a head count of 14. Emergency exits are right there and out here. And then we all meet at the platform right outside the boardroom. And address is 949 East Channel Street, Stockton, California 95202. And that concludes my safety briefing.
Thank you so much. Number 3, roll call.
Thank you. Alrighty. We have quite a few members and some are still joining remotely. I will go ahead and start and I'll circle back if I miss any. All right, committee members, Bill Whitlatch. Shane Strawn. Chris De Silva.
Here.
Thank you. David Lehman.
Here.
Elizabeth Klass.
Here.
Espa Vielma. Gloria Valdovino.
Here.
Hank Fung.
Here.
Irene Enriquez. John Webb.
Here.
John Palmer. Julio Valadez. Caitlin Rodner Sutter.
Here.
Patricia Lynn.
Here.
Samuel Daly.
Here.
Steve Cohn.
Are you going to lunch? Here. I'm doing a meet Zoom meeting
James
here.
Brandy.
Here.
Thank you.
Hi.
Tom Bailey.
Here, remotely.
Thank you. Troy Hightower. Ben Rover. Walter Stammer Jr. Okay, and I just want to do one last double check because I did see a few online who did not respond. Bill Whitlatch.
Here.
Thank you. Shane Strawn. Irene Enriquez. Troy Hightower. Walter Stammer Jr. All right. I do want to note that we do not have a quorum, but so this meeting will be for information only.
Thank you, Adriana. Number 4, do we have any public comment?
I see one hand raised online, so I will allow to talk for Rajiv Narayan.
Wonderful.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Good afternoon. I just had a question about whether or when the Modesto Rail Commission and the Valley Rail Project will be open for service. It's difficult to tell from the Commission's online materials, so I wanted to ask directly.
I don't think we can respond directly to public comment. Is that true? Or that's how it is at the city council meeting.
Can't respond if it's a short answer.
I don't know.
If not, we can.
Yeah, so we don't, we the committee members.
That's fine.
So
If commenter would like to leave your information with the clerk, then we can get back to you.
okay, seeing no other, thank you for your comment. I'm sorry I don't have the information for you. Number 5, we have a new member, and I'm gonna welcome, is it Gloria I'm gonna say this wrong, Valdivinos of Merced, has recently joined us. And so welcome, I heard that you're here, and we have the oath of administration. And that isn't actually, but we can do that even without quorum.
So yes, for our oath of office, we can all take that together. So I'll come up to our podium here quickly. And this oath of office is going to be for all of our members so that we have it all on file because we haven't had our oaths of office in quite some time. So I wanted to make sure that We were all joined together, everyone online and everyone in the room, to be able to take our oath. So if you do not mind standing with me, for those of you online as well, we are going to go ahead and raise our right arm and then repeat after me. We're going to be following what's on your screen, sentence by sentence. So I.
So with that,
Support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of
Against all enemies,
the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
that I bear true faith
That I will bear to truth, faith, and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California.
California, that I take this freely
That I take this obligation freely
without any
mental
reservation or purpose of evasion.
That I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of a
Charge the duties committee members of the San Joaquin Rural Rail Committee, upon which I'm about to enter.
All right, thank you so much. Welcome aboard. For those of you online, staff will be reaching out for contact information to get your oaths sent over to you digitally. For those of you in the room, your oath is in front of you. If you don't mind signing it over, and I will collect it at the end of this meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I did want to just let you know after item 6, this is to everyone, that we are going to be rearranging the order of the agenda. So what you have in front of you is going to be in a different order. So starting with agenda item 7, it's going to be out of order. So just let you know that that's happening. So we have, because this is just for information, we're going to go over the consent calendar, but we will not be voting. And is that, are we on that again?
Yes. Yes, that's correct. So our consent calendar has our minutes from our last meeting, as well as the same item from our last meeting, the approving of the of our meeting calendar, because it wasn't able to be approved last time. So it's just carrying over until we can get it worked.
Okay, yes, so thank you. And do we have dates for that?
Our next meeting is going to be on February 19th.
Okay, oh, I see it there at the end. Okay, perfect. All right, thank you. So now we're gonna skip down to what was 11, and that's gonna become the new number 7, the Valley Rail Program Update, and that's Abdel Ahmed.
Good afternoon.
All right.
My name is Adele Ahmed. I'm the Public Relations Manager for the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority and the San Joaquin Regional Commission. It's my pleasure to give you a Valley Rail Program update. Before we do begin, I want to mention that, you know, Valley Rail touches pretty much every department within the agency, whether it's planning for it, going forward with actual construction pieces or the various other aspects of Valley Rail. And so our role within, I'm part of the passenger experience and marketing department. We're really focused on the communication aspect of Valley Rail. And so you'll see this kind of presentation broken up into two sections. First is kind of give you an update for those that haven't received one in a while. And then we'll kind of dive a little bit into the actual communications around what the plan is for us to do outreach for Valley Rail. And so sorry, this is a little lagging a little bit. So I do make a promise to you that I won't read every slide, but for this one, I want everybody to memorize this by the end of the year. Everybody in this room and online as well too. So you know, if people are asking what Valley Rail is, Valley Rail expands passenger rail service across Northern California. The new station, infrastructure improvements, increasing service frequency, and creating new connections throughout Central Valley, Sacramento, and Bay Area. And as you see, there's both the ACE and the Gold Winter service. The goal is that Valley Rail supports both of these services. The core outcomes, these are the 4 pillars that we are aiming for Valley Rail will solve for us, is that the first is strengthening communities. Increasing connectivity is absolutely vital. We have a wide corridor with Gold Runner and ACE. And so we want to do whatever we can to improve the connectivity between those regions. We want to create regional connections. We obviously want to, one of the main why people want to take rail, why we push for folks to get on our services to reduce congestion and improve air quality for them. And then of course, us, the Gold Runner team and both the ACE, we are a central part of the rail system in California. If you've often seen a map of the Gold Runner, we extend everywhere with our rail and our thruway bus service. And so we want to be a part and a vital part of the California's future rail network. Kind of a little bit of a refresher on how the program is governed. You know, we have the two different entities, the San Joaquin Regional Rail Commission as well as San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority. Together, they formed members of those boards form a joint committee that makes this decision process streamlined. And so both staffs, you know, we work for both agencies, and so the focus for us is a joint project for the Rail Commission and the Joint Powers Authority to get this project across the finish line. And so the Valley Rail is a very expansive program. You know, we could. I asked the team to give me an hour to talk, and they told me no. So, so for the purpose of this group, we're going to kind of dive into what we call Valley Rail Phase 1, which is if we're looking at a calendar, we're looking at the current year up to year 2031. Will be the first set of projects that we will be delivering to essentially start some of the first new service that will be happening in the Sacramento region and beyond. And so the program will extend a service to Sacramento region, the new station in Natomas, Midtown, Sacramento, and Elk Grove, which will add a new ACE round trip. And then also improve Gold Runner through new stations in Oakley and a relocation in Madera as well. And so, you know, combine these set of projects along with the stations and the infrastructure kind of form Valley Rail Phase 1. And, you know, even kind of diving a little bit deeper into Phase 1, we have what we're calling two different, I would say, components to it. The first component is kind of measuring up to the year 2028 is what we're calling our Gold Runner improvements. And then the second part will be our ACE. And for the purpose of the presentation, we'll kind of go over the Gold Runner initial improvements. So this is just a kind of quick timeline of projects that we've already completed because the program didn't start today or yesterday. It's been in the works for a while. So we have done some of the more core work in previous years and already have an infrastructure project in place like the Lake of White Box project that we have. We are starting several projects this year and next year, and some of those projects will be completed as well. And so as I just mentioned, kind of the initial, what we call the Gold Runner enhancements is going to 2028. These are some of the projected numbers and benefits of these new projects. And so in particular, the two station projects are going to be the Oakley Station and Madera Station relocation. That we think will have an extremely positive impact on VMT reduction as well as interest in new ridership. So we'll have ridership growth on the Gold Runner as well. And so I'm going to dive into kind of the three projects that we are talking about for the Gold Runner enhancements. The first one is underway. It's called the Lake to Escalon project. Essentially, we'll add infrastructure for us to eventually unlock an 8th round trip in a different phase of Valley Rail. And so this project, if you see on the schedule, it should be completed sometime this year. And we put a map up on you know, where these projects are located to kind of better situate you on, you know, visualize how these are being put in place. The second project is going to be the Oakley Station project. This will be a new station in what is known as downtown Oakley. It's gonna provide better access to East Contra Costa, and the exciting news about this one is that we are partnering with BNSF on this project, and so through BNSF, this project is out to bid, and we're hoping to celebrate a groundbreaking later this year, and we obviously would love for you to be a part of that. And then we do have a kind of a cool before and after. This is what the Ariana's going to open it up, but this is what the current site of the station looks like, located just off downtown. And Ariana will kind of slide it over and show you what the station will look like once it's complete. And so we're excited about this. The city of Oakley and even the region is really excited about this project, and we've been doing quite a bit of outreach in the last several weeks to make sure we get everything lined up and coordinated for this project. Next slide, please. And then kind of the final project I wanted to highlight was the Madera Station. We already have a station Madera. I think somebody had already asked me before this meeting began. But this would essentially relocate our current Madera Station, so we would have better connectivity with the future high-speed rail. And so one of the pillars I talked about earlier to make sure that we're aligning ourselves to be a part of this bigger, larger state network, this project will help achieve that. And so without, and so that was the goal of our enhancements. We do have the ACE enhancements recall, but we unfortunately don't have time to go through all those projects today. But Valley Rail Phase 1, we just wanted to put in perspective of what the goal is and what we're hoping to get. So the service level will definitely add an additional ACE round trip. We'll still have our 7 round trips, but we're hoping that with the station improvements, we'll have a better connectivity and increased ridership with those folks in those regions interested in using our service, as well as just the natural benefits of greenhouse gas reduction and better air quality and environment for everybody in the region. And then this is kind of a further out version of the timeline I showed you a little bit earlier. So all the information you saw is kind of aimed on the Gold Runner side to 2028. But beyond that, we'll have quite a bit of movement up to 2031 with new stations and the infrastructure projects to come support those. But the key for us is to love to get the stations up and running, obviously celebrate those, the infrastructure for running. But the service start date of 2031 is very vital for us. That will show that we will have a brand new connectivity that hasn't happened before within our community. And so that was kind of a quick overview, but I did want to also share some of the work that our team, the PEM team, is doing in terms of the communication plan around Valley Rail. And so for us, we want to support the successful delivery of the near and long-term program by aligning stakeholders, building public awareness, and maintaining transparent, consistent engagement across all phases of the program. And then we definitely want to make sure that we obviously want to highlight Valley Rail, but we also want to highlight the important work both the Rail Commission and the Joint Powers Authority does, as well as the services provide, right? This is another opportunity to talk about our services into new markets with people that don't know us quite as well. We definitely want to make sure that our corridor is large, that everybody, all stakeholders are engaged, they understand what Valley Rail is and what our services are. And obviously we want to make sure that the purpose is to get folks on the train, so we attract new ridership as we're doing this outreach, that we're having new service, but we might, somebody who's already in our, in stock and that hears about this may know that, have interest in riding on the Gold Runner or the ACE service. And of course, we're going to equip our agency leadership, board members, including you, so you have the tools you need when people are asking questions within your respective communities, that you give them accurate and correct information. And some of the key goals that we have to make sure that the public is confident in this program is we'll have some proactive outreach materials that we all will be using. We're going to make sure we're engaged with our stakeholders throughout our region. Definitely want to make sure that we inform our media partners up and down the corridor of all the progress that's happening. And of course, be prepared for any urgent or last minute issues or requests that come up as well. And so just want to highlight some of the, this is not an entirely all-inclusive list, but this is kind of some of the folks that we are planning to target, including, I put you guys up front because, we're looking for volunteers. So board members as program ambassadors for Valley Rail, definitely our state and federal partners with the amount of funding that's involved, our host railroads that are our central partners in getting this project complete, local governments, obviously, public safety, communities, and direct impact areas, as well as the future riders that I just previously mentioned, definitely the business community, advocacy community, anybody that's involved in the local region that wants to be a part of this project, and then definitely our industry and transportation partners. And so the messaging framework is kind of the key, is what I would call the key document that will help shape all of our external materials, including this PowerPoint. This document is a unified document that will provide a universal messaging for everything, so we make sure that everything is consistent and it's up to date. It allows us to introduce the different phases of the program that I just mentioned. Definitely want to make sure that messaging is tailored to the different regions, right? Sacramento is getting a lot of the initial work, so they have a kind of a different focus as opposed to some of the other regions that are getting some work later down the line and having impact. So we want to make sure that we don't talk to everybody in just one general sense, that we have individual conversations. And of course, we want to make sure that we have answers for questions that people pop up. There's not a day that goes by that we get a new question that we're like, we didn't think about that one yet. So we want to make sure that we track and log those, and definitely want to make sure you guys have access to those as well, so you can answer some of the questions. Want to make
Can I
sure
ask a question, or when is the appropriate time to ask questions?
We'll have questions when he finishes the presentation, and then
Okay.
do that first.
Thank you, yes. And then we'll have digital infrastructure is very vital. In fact, we'll have some web pages that are launching this week that will highlight what I just mentioned, so people can go online and interact with the station. They'll have the slider effects, as you see the before and after. We're working on finding ways so people station-wide, people could see how the service will connect to their broader local transportation organization as well. And then also using the digital infrastructure to make sure that we're monitoring requests from the general public and just kind of keeping the general people updated and informed, and as well as not just a website, but we'll have a kind of an organic social media push to highlight all the great stuff that's coming. Definitely want to make sure that we're interacting with our media partners, so we'll have quite a robust outreach plan for to engage with the media proactively, and they will help share our story with a broader audience. And definitely individual project outreach. Each project is going to look a little bit different, but we kind of have a general idea in mind what we want to focus on when the project is being put together. So the timelines we have are, we'll have a plan in place 90 days, 30 days, and 7 days before construction, which will lead up to a groundbreaking of some sort, during construction, monitoring what's happening at the sites, and then of course celebrating when the construction is complete. And then in some of these locations, there will be a service gap start, right? We'll have the station that's finished, but the service won't launch until later on. So we want to make sure the community is aware of what's going on, and we're also doing our jobs to make sure the stations are safe, secure, and the community is happy with the state of affairs. And for us, this is what success looks like. We want to make sure, of course, all the stakeholders are informed. People understand what Valley Rail is. We want to make sure that the media coverage we're getting is consistent, accurate, and positive. We want to have enhanced visibility with both the Rail Commission and the JPA, including leadership, board members, staff. And definitely want people to jump on and help us to push the message, right? So we want advocacy for community, business, and like the leaders. And of course, that kind of the other end of that is to make sure we got expanded public stakeholder and legislative support for the project. And just kind of everything I mentioned is kind of tied down into these items, the messaging framework I mentioned, each program, the overall program's comms plan, and the individual project comms plan, website presence, and of course communication resources that we all will use, including PowerPoint. And so with that said, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have backup. There's some of them more more focused on the construction side, but the comms plan, I'm definitely here to walk you through it.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. That was a lot of information.
Yeah.
A very short amount of time. So
Yeah.
Appreciate all that hard work. We had at least one question I know online. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I can ask it. Sam from San Francisco. Thanks for the presentation on the Oakley station. I'm glad to hear that the town is excited about it. I'm curious what the town is going to do in return. I'm thinking along the lines of zoning changes. I looked up like their downtown plan. It looks like there's going to be a couple of hundred parking spots around the station. Is there any plans for, okay, say mixed use development or apartments or any sort of, you know, call it rail oriented buildings to be built?
Yeah, we don't have
Um,
anything confirmed, but we are, the rather good point. The town is excited because they do view this as a transformational change for their region. They don't have a station currently, and so this is extremely vital for them. And it's in a good area with downtown, and they're trying to revitalize that area as well too. So working with our staff over the course of the next several years, I think that Oakley is from the information we have, their city staff and their elected officials are interested in building around the station and improve the infrastructure as well as make sure that the TOD that you mentioned is done in a right way.
okay, because a couple thoughts on that. Canada, obviously another country, has tied transportation funding to zoning changes. Obviously, so people can actually use the facilities that we're building and walking to and from them. And something that concerned me is I looked at the stations that the Gold Runner has today, and I looked at the ridership per capita at each station. In Antioch, 5.5 miles away, is like the fourth lowest per capita ridership station. Obviously just 5 miles away, and was thinking if we're just building a parking lot next to the station, why have a station when you could drive 5 miles? If you have to walk, okay, then I could get it. But then where are the zoning changes to facilitate that walking to the station?
No, absolutely, and I think he's an okay example, but when some of the station that we get a chance to dive into, this is a focus for both our city partners, county partners, and the rail commission to make sure that the new stations that are going in place do fit in what the city, of course, what the city wants to see. But a lot of the stuff you mentioned is kind of some of the initial feedback we're getting from city leadership, and not just Oakley, but throughout the corridor.
All right, thank you. Do you have a question?
A little more comment question related to this.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk about the open season. I'm personally, so I'm Tim, I represent Alameda County to work, Contra Costa. Very excited about the Oakley station. And I know in talking to folks from East County, you've seen a lot of growth in East Contra Costa County, completely underserved by rail. So this is an opportunity to serve a community that I think that has been long underserved for a very long time. So particularly excited, and I would I think the one question I have is there any discussion even looking further in terms of that 5 mile gap closure with the E-BART that's out in Antioch? Because I think there is an opportunity there. You're not far away from being able to connect Ace to BART and then really have, I think, a really exciting loop that would also connect into the valley. So I know the Oakley station hasn't even opened yet, but has there been any thought about potential gap closure to eliminate that? And yes, I can just speak directly. I know there's a lot of TOD that's planned in that area, both in Oakley and in Antioch, and it seems like we have a real opportunity here for some game-changing kind of development.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have the direct answer to that particular, the E-BART extension they had out to Antioch, but for us as an agency, and as long as I've been on here, we work closely with all of our transportation partners as well as the local jurisdictions to see whatever we could do to help support the overall system. And so I don't know if we've had any of those direct conversations yet, but if those do start up, I'm sure we're happy to come and listen in and see how we could, if there's a gap that needs to be bridged, then we're more than happy to sit down and see what that looks like.
Yeah, and I think my closing comments, I would encourage ACE to look at that if they haven't already, and with BART. I mean, the gap closure there, we're getting so much closer now, and so I would say now would be the time to start having those conversations to see, whether it's BART extending east, whether it's east extending west, but that gap closure in East Contra Costa County would go a long way. And that Oakley station is really gonna go and help with that.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, to speak to that, because oftentimes they send us to Richmond
Right,
to get BART, but it's a totally different line. And
Yeah.
so for ease of people to not have to transfer once they get on BART and then come back, it's worth a conversation, I guess. I would go sign on that
yes.
as a conversation point. Any other questions online?
Seeing no other committee members having come.
Okay, I have a question and it kind of aligns with that. So the Natomas station we've been talking about this for a long while. I'm not sure exactly where it's located in relationship with the Sacramento International Airport. What conversations are you having with getting connectivity between those two? Because that's 5 years from now, so this is the time we're starting to talk about.
Yeah, and we are actually having active conversations. The little bit challenging thing with, and as the Valley Rail will evolve over time as well too, with more service being added, but
Sure.
kind of the initial phase of that is looking to bring folks down from Natomas to the Central Valley as well as the Silicon Valley as well too. So I think connectivity is very important. We also have to be thoughtful on who's going to be using that service, right? If this is a service that it may make sense for some people at the airport that are getting off a flight that want to do public transportation, that this may work out for them. But currently, for folks that need to frequency to get to a flight, which some of the other airports have, that may not be initially possible. But to kind of your original question, we are trying to find the best solutions we can to make it work. We want connectivity, and in fact, you'll hear about this today. I don't want to steal Michael's thunder here, but we'll have a new route that we launched that will kind of help fill in some of the gaps with connectivity, and eventually, I think this will all be a system that people will be able to use to connect between airports in different parts of the valley.
Yeah, to just speak to that, I take the train up to what is the current station.
Yes.
Uber to my hotel.
Yeah.
Then have to get, so it is probably more relevant than people are actually willing to do at this point. Especially like when I was doing 6 a.m. flights out of Sacramento, and trying not to do it with a car.
Yes.
So just be aware that there would be some. I know at this point we don't have any data on that because one, I'm pretty hardcore and getting to airports without a car. But at the same time, it is a conversation that we want to have. And I know in Turlock you have the connectivity with the busing system, and so, but I know how many years that took to get that from first conversation to actually being established. So that's why I look forward.
I would say holistic as an agency, we've had a great relationship with Sacramento International Airport. I actually had an email this morning about one of the new routes that we launched as well too. And so they're excited about all these potential options, and they're willing to work with us on what the connection looks like. It makes sense for both parties. So we think there's gonna be some opportunity.
And then also the connection then from the Natomas back to, I can't remember what, the Sacramento station for the long hauls. How is that? What was that?
I don't have that detail in front of me, but happy to get that back to you. Yeah.
Just kind of as potential because
Sure.
of the people that are doing like the Zephyr, or they're going north-south of just Seattle or down to San Diego.
And I would say, I always refer to people that are smarter than me, and people that planning team that's always very helpful in organizing a lot of these future connections, current connections. And so I'm confident saying that they're always exploring all these opportunities to make sure the connection is seamless. And to your point, like, we don't want people to take a car any portion of the trip if possible, right? They should be able to get on other forms of if it's not just roll under service.
Yeah, I mean, this is Hank. Just to piggyback on that, Yeah, there will be, I mean, we're looking at, 2031 for that extension, but it's, only 5 years away. So needing to think about from the public perspective, now there's gonna be 2 Sacramento stations that are gonna be, a couple miles from each other. So, it does seem that, even if it's just a shuttle bus or a regular RT route or something, that people can make that connection, it's known, and that people don't get confused, that because there will be some Gold Runner trains that will continue to operate to the Valley Station, and then some that will go to Midtown and then on to the Natomas. So, the customer, knowledge and, informing the customer that there's a difference gonna be important. And also, at Sacramento Airport to Natomas, I mean, initially, yeah, with just, a few trains, it could just be, a subsidized Uber. But, long term, as more trains get up there, do you look at, a fixed route bus or something, more than just, but definitely, I mean, initially, I think, the subsidized Uber or microtransit would probably be the proper, solution, just because of the,
Sac
Absolutely.
RT does run a bus every hour from downtown to the airport today from 5 in the morning till 10 p.m.
Yeah, yes.
Can I jump in on that? This is Steve. On both Elizabeth and Hank's questions, the Sacramento Regional Rail Working Group has been focused on the connections for all the new Valley Rail stations in Sacramento, and in particular with Natomas. There's obviously a great opportunity for the airport connection that you talked about. RT does run, as was mentioned, some service jointly with YOLO, but it's really inadequate. And so they are doing a study right now of enhancing bus service to the airport from downtown. But I know they are also looking at potentially serving through some kind of shuttle with the airport from our new Natomas station. The airport cannot apparently put its own money into that. Federal regulations prevent it, but RT certainly could. So that's something we're focused on in Sacramento. The Del Paso station, which comes along a little later, is a great opportunity for housing mixed use, basically creating a transit center that would also connect to RT's light rail station right nearby. And of course, Midtown would have no parking, so it will definitely be people that are either walking or using transit. Some obviously will be dropped off, but that's an area that the city of Sacramento, the state, and Valley Rail have been very active pursuing bike ped connections in addition to transit connections. So at any rate, we are probably going to have another meeting of the Sacramento Regional Rail Working Group in October, and we'll follow up on some of the points that have been made. And also the connections between Valley Rail and the Sac Valley Station are important because for the first time, we'll be having train stations that don't stop directly at the downtown station. So those connections will be very important.
To add that, and Mr. Cohen, we are actively working, and we have great partners, not just in the Sacramento region, but throughout the quarter for these kind of conversations of connectivity. So it's, we're excited as the program is evolving, and we're going to finalize some of this information. We'll be updating you, of course, the next several years of these connections with everybody. And somebody even made a request kind of at one of our board meetings about, hey, let's start working on this thing kind of local transit connections on the websites of the projects. And so we've already started working on that.
Yeah, I know you're gonna do a great job.
Yeah.
So the questions are always just so that we can kind of know and start also thinking about what are going to be the potential barriers Because the potential barrier from Natomas back to the rail to take the Starlight Express up is, it has been midnight is when you catch that. So that it's also the time of day, whereas public transit buses don't tend to run 24 hours a day. So those kinds of factors are things that have to be considered. So
Absolutely, thank you so much.
Yeah. And then I just have one more question. The lake to
Let's go on.
Escalon.
Yeah.
Is that an aid station? Is that that's not.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Lake to Escalon is a track project in sort of the Escalon area that adds a section of double track to the current EN corridor that the Gold Runner runs on. It is our project to deliver that leads to an 8th round trip for Gold Runner. Paired with that are the projects that we were discussing before the meeting started, like a second platform in Modesto and Turlock that are Caltrans's projects to deliver like on behalf of the service for an 8th round trip.
Okay, I was confused. And so
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
Sure.
good clarification. Yeah, thank you. Are there any other questions before we move on? Okay, I see none.
Seeing none online.
Okay, great. Let's move on. Thank you so much.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Okay, and so now what was number 10 is now number 8, the Thruway Bus Route 5 update. And that is Michael.
Thank you. And again, to continue the theme of service expansion, here to present about our new Thruway Route 5. And so just a bit of a history, kind of getting us oriented here. Route 5 is really a long plane intercity bus improvement. It's originally known as the Salmon Run. We've been working on early iterations with the state and local partners up in Reading, and really planning for this and operating service to get to Route 5 has been a long process. We actually adjusted Route 3 in coordination with our Amtrak partnership and with the Reading Area Bus Authority to have RABA operate Route 3R, which was our Reading to Chico service as an extension of Route 3, kind of proving that they, as a local transit operator, can viably operate long distance service, which really then led to our partnership with them operating Route 5. So again, with our state network here with the Gold Runner service, you can see that up in the valley north of Sacramento, we do have 2 services now, Route 3 and Route 5, and Route 5 is now the connection all the way to Reading from Sacramento. So again, goals with this service is to really align state's plans, our business plan and regional plans, and help to reduce costs on the state funds that we do get. And Route 5, again, will not just provide improved service, but have a new airport connection that a lot of people are really excited about. This service also from Reading into Sacramento cuts about 15 to 30 minutes or so from a Route 3 trip in total. So we expect this to help increase ridership and again reduce that subsidy that the SJVRC provides in operating service. An additional benefit here in partnering with RABA, we are able to provide bus-only ticketing along the entire route. So really, not just enhancing those long distance travel opportunities, but inter-corridor travel as well. So on the route itself, we do offer stops in Reading, Red Bluff, Orland, Williams, the airports in Sacramento, and the Sacramento station. Again, the airport is really a key connection in Northern California. It's our only airport stop we have in the North State. Of course, Sac Valley Station provides connection to Gold Runner and Capital Corridor trains, as well as other thruway and local transit opportunities. Orland also provides a connection through Glenright over to Chico. So folks that have been taking 3R from Reading down to Chico still have that connection opportunity in Orland. In Williams, because of the length of the route, does provide a rest stop for those on the bus. And certainly that stop at Williams, also has connection with the Highway 20 corridor, so if people are coming from Lake County, wants further west, there's a stop on OG there. And this really all is kind of the centerpiece and start of a broader North State connectivity plan that has been worked on for a number of years with a lot of the North State transit partners as well. So in order to do this is really kind of a newer arrangement that we've pioneered with a local transit operator in Rava. We've come, and signed on to a cooperative agreement with them to be a local public transit operator operating long distance service, again, with the benefits that we've mentioned before. They've also, come to an agreement with Amtrak for their ticketing. So again, kind of bringing everybody together in one integrated service. So there should be no, difference when you're booking, Reading to, let's say, Fresno trip. It would all be Amtrak ticketing, as well as, coordinating with the city of Sacramento and access to Sac Valley Station. So it's really a big effort to get even just this new arrangement, a new style of route operation off the ground. In addition to all of the other agreements that we've had to do, we also had to pull from a number of funding opportunities to stand this up. So we've partnered with Caltrans on some operating funding, the Shasta Regional Transportation Authority for future equipment. We're currently running renewable diesel coaches that would then transition into all electric buses in the future, as well as some additional funding from Tama County Transportation Commission. So really bringing in, again, all of these regional funding opportunities along with the state and the GPA's ability to coalesce that and provide any needed subsidy on top of ticketing fares or ticket fares that we do collect, help make this a viable service. So to start, we are looking at 2 round trips on the service. You can see here, it really is oriented from a kind of south and then to north operation, with the southbound from Reading starting at 9 and another at 1:20, and then the northbound service being kind of an afternoon evening trip from Sacramento starting at 1:30 and you can see the connections here. The later southbound bus would connect with the 704 train, and the early northbound bus with the 701. Of course, the bus connections there as well. And so the fares for this, we've kept it really similar, if not almost exact, to our 3R fare table, really trying to provide that consistency for the passengers moving forward, and certainly a very affordable option for such a long distance route, and those even continuing on the train service, able to take advantage of this. So we are super excited to, again, not just be talking about Route 5 service, but we did launch it this past Monday, August 10th. And we have a celebration in Reading to have a ribbon cutting, bring a bunch of local partners and everybody that we've been talking about here together on August 24th. You can see the time there. If you're able to get to Reading or be up there over the weekend, we are starting at 8:15 that Monday morning. Just see the bus off after some speaking engagements. So really looking to not just celebrate up front, but other opportunities along the corridor that we can help get the message out about the service. We'll be looking to those, like Adele mentioned before. The airport's been really helpful, and certainly be looking to have something or what we can do with the city of Sacramento and Sac allocation. So that's kind of the initial jumping off point, but this is a continuing effort. We'll certainly be monitoring the performance and looking at, do those times make sense? If there's any schedule adjustments, we can do that. Hopefully continue to boost ridership and revenue. And as well, Rava is helping a lot with obtaining the funding on an annual basis. We'll be helping to coordinate with them to make sure that this, stands up every year and continues to be viable, profitable enterprise for Gold Runner and everybody involved, as well as providing that additional connectivity for the passengers. I believe this is the last slide.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions?
Which trains will it connect with to go to the rest of the state?
So the direct connection at Sac Valley Station for this service will be trains 701 and 704. And then the Route 3 buses there are connecting with the kind of earliest and latest buses for the south and northbound trips. So that connection to other trains would be at Stockton.
Gotcha. Fantastic. Thank you.
You mentioned Lake County, and I know that that's a little off the beaten path. It's kind of in the middle of the two. But I'm just gonna shout out, because I don't think Lake County's represented here. I'm gonna give a shout out that just at some point kind of talk about how to de-isolate them, because they're so isolated.
And this would be, of course, the closest stop available at this point. Any passengers looking to ride would need to get there somehow, but yes.
I'm thinking long term and just getting it on record that they kind of get a little bit forgotten there in their little space. I grew up in Lake County, that's why. Yeah. How long has it been that we've been able to do the bus only? How many years has that been now?
So I can't remember the date of legislation, but it has been a few years. The trouble with some of it is we do have to work with private operators along a lot of our bus route, our throughway bus corridors to kind of communicate, coordinate, and get sign off with them to allow bus only ticketing. That's a state mandate through legislation. So we've unlocked a few routes. We are always looking at opportunities and working to unlock more of our routes. And one of the ways to do that kind of expeditiously is to partner with local transit agencies. Public operators aren't subject to that, so this is one way.
So are we far enough to start having some data on is ridership increased? Like,
I would say with our transition of Route 3 being truncated at Chico and 3R taking that Chico to Redding segment, the ridership has ticked up for the last year and a half of that operating. So that's been good, trajectory for Route 5. And so it's a bit early, obviously, just starting this week to see how that has, increased at all. But we are certainly looking forward to, that continuance of ridership.
Yeah, okay. I was just curious because Chico's been for a little while. That was one of the first, was that to get the bus only?
So 3R was bus only. We are still looking to open Route 3. Yes.
Sorry,
That's okay.
that was me, my brain. Are there any other questions?
Seeing none online.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. And we're gonna move back up to what used to be number 7. It is now number 9. Gold Runner Operations, Passenger Experience and Marketing Update. And this is me. Oh, Marky.
Good afternoon, Nathan Lax, Operations Superintendent for SJVRC. So we're going to take a look at current operations for the Gold Runner service. I know many of you are quite familiar with the service, but we may have some on who are not as familiar. Then we'll take a look back at the on-time performance of the service and some of the things affecting that over the past fiscal year. Then I'll turn it over to my colleague, Marcus Cook, who will give a passenger experience and marketing update. So looking at current operations for the Gold Runner service, SJVRC is the managing agency for the service. We have Amtrak who operates the service. They operate all of the train service as well as the extensive throughway bus service that we have. And this also includes the station staff for the service. Maintaining the equipment, we have Transit America Services, Inc., also known as TASI, who will do all the maintenance and servicing of the equipment. Currently, we operate 7 round trips. There are 5 trips between Oakland and Bakersfield and 2 between Sacramento and Bakersfield. The service operates on track owned by both BNSF and Union Pacific Freight Railroads, and so we share our porter with their freight traffic as well. And then we'll be looking at on-time performance, endpoint on-time performance, which measures whether a train gets to its final arrival or final station within 15 minutes of its scheduled arrival. We have a goal of on-time performance of 83% set for this service, and you may have asked why not more. But we really think that this is a goal that's achievable given the conditions that we operate on, and also that would give us some much needed improvement in on-time performance for the service. And then down below, you can see all of the different stations that the service operates on throughout California. So taking a look back at this past fiscal year's on-time performance, this covers the period between July of 2025 up until June of this year. You can see that first number there, we averaged 62% on-time performance for the year, so well below that goal of 83%. But to kind of take you back through some of the highs and lows of this past fiscal year, we'll go through some of the numbers here throughout the months. The gold line here represents this past fiscal year, and then the blue line there that we have kind of gives you a comparative reference of our performance last fiscal year. So starting off there in the first quarter, the first few months of the year, you can see that in September of that first quarter was really a challenging quarter for us. We had our lowest performance of the year there in September, coming in at 27%. I'm going to go over some of the issues affecting both the first quarter and then the year as far as the challenges that we had throughout. You can see in October there in the second quarter, we did spike back up into the 66% range or the 60 range. We were able to maintain that throughout the second quarter. Then in the third quarter, as we got into the more milder months, we did see another bit of improvement into the 70s. And we were able to actually eclipse some of last year's on-time performance there from February through April, as you can see towards the end of the third quarter there. And then once we got into May and June, we saw another dip in performance as the months started to get a little bit warmer. So going back to that first quarter, some of the things affecting on-time performance both in the first quarter and then throughout the year. In July and September, our host railroad, BNSF, had a couple of major tie replacement projects, both in the middle of our quarter in the Stockton and Modesto area, and all the way down in the Bakersfield area as well. And those covered some pretty extensive areas. And so all of our trains experienced speed restrictions on a daily basis throughout those months due to those projects. And then that on top of really was the main driver for the poor performance throughout this past year was the aging of the Northern California locomotive fleet. And so we really started to see a lot of reliability and mechanical challenges due to that, those issues. And so that coupled with those tie projects really brought on-time performance down to a low in the first quarter. And then the mechanical challenges really have affected us throughout the rest of this fiscal year and currently as well. We did have some canceled trains in September, early September through early October. We did cancel one round trip throughout that period of time. That was due to locomotive availability and to give our maintainers some time to work on some of that equipment without it being in service. And then we did that as well from January to April, again, for the same reason as we were continuing to experience challenges with reliability. And then back in December, I do want to mention that we did, the service did undergo a complete schedule change. Some of this was to address some on-time performance issues that we were aware of, both conflicts with gold runner meets as well as freight meets. Unfortunately, due to all the mechanical challenges, it's been really tough to gauge how effective that schedule change has been, although we have seen some indications on days where mechanical challenges are not as prevalent that we would see some improvement in the schedule. But we really need some more extensive period of time without those issues to really see how the schedule is performing. And then as part of that schedule change, some positive news. In December, we were able to bring back the 7th round trip that had been suspended for many years, I think going back to 2021. This is the return of an additional round trip between Sacramento and Bakersfield. I think some of you were able to take 701 this morning, which departs Bakersfield at 6:58 a.m. and arrives in Sacramento at 12:38. And then train 704 departs Sacramento in the evening at 5:20 and then gets down to Bakersfield at 10:51 at night. And so we're very excited about this. And these are actually a couple of the better performing trains on time performance wise. I think you were able to get here on time this morning on 7:01. So definitely glad to see that. So back to the mechanical challenges and what we're doing to address these issues right now. The Northern California fleet of locomotives is shared by both the Gold Runner service and the Capital Corridor service as well. And so we've leased 3 additional locomotives from Caltrain to supplement the fleet. Those locomotives are currently running on the Capital Corridor service, but that does free up equipment that we can use on the Gold Runner service as well. And so that gives us additional capacity to supplement some of the issues that we're having with other equipment. And then something that will actually be the main driver of improvement in overall reliability for the service. All of our F-59 locomotives are well overdue for complete overhauls. And so the state is very close, Caltrans is very close to going out to bid for the procurement of that overhaul project. And so once that starts and we start to get some of those locomotives back, then we'll really see an improvement in reliability for the service. And then as locomotive availability allows, we are putting 2 locomotives on some of the Gold Runner trains to help rescue trains if needed, as well as continue operating if we do have a failure. And this also alleviates some of the load on those locomotives en route as well. Car availability, we don't have any issues currently. I think for the bi-level equipment, we're in the mid-80s range for availability, and the venture cars are in the 90s. So there are no issues with car availability at the time. And then to go along with that, the 7th winter set, the final set that had been procured, actually went into service last week on August 7th. So that's good to see as well. That's it for the operations update. I turn it over to Mark for past minutes.
Thanks, Steve. So good afternoon, everyone. Marcus Cook, Deputy Director of Passenger Experience and Marketing. Great to see the familiar faces in the room and those online as well. So thanks so much for joining us. So what we're going to look at is kind of a year for FY26, the year performance, but also we'll look at some of the quarter by quarter data as well. So what you see here is for the year FY26, we had 920,000 riders. Versus last year, we were up, so that's 1.7% up year over year. And then you see a nice round number up for revenue during the fiscal year, primarily coming from when we did raise fares back in October. So if we're looking at, just ridership quarter by quarter, really what we've been able to see that despite some of those challenges that Nathan went through, kind of just going through exactly what we were facing for some of the equipment, even with lower service levels during certain points of the year, we were still, throughout able to reach, kind of where we needed to be for this fiscal year in its entirety. You obviously see where those operational challenges came into place, and we were dipping a little bit below where we were in prior year, but we ended very nicely. So we were able to continue to push, the ridership to get to the point where we needed it to be to really meet our goal for the year. Now, again, the revenue, one of my favorite slides. It really does show that, we were well positioned to be able to do this fare change. We had, the plans were in place to do this and, get this going pre-pandemic, so around 2018, 2019, however. So the pandemic happened, we needed some time to really be able to make sure that we were going to do this at the right time. So we're able to not only increase the fares back in October, but also work with our board to establish a good protocol and process. So that way we can have biennial increases or at least present those recommendations to the board every other year. And so right now you can see that the ridership and revenue, they are moving in the right direction. We haven't seen a loss of ridership. So I think what we did through that process was be mindful, really mindful of one, level set and kind of correct some of those nuances, but also work from a standpoint of setting fares that make sense for our riders across the region. And then we also, of course, like to look at what's the station by station, or so really market by market performance. And so this gets into some of those questions that were asked earlier about, okay, well, how's Antioch doing, versus other regions and things like that. And this helps you be able to see. So we started this process really last year, really trying to dig into, okay, how are these markets performing so that way we can build some of our strategies and some of our advertising around that. And, while we do see that, the Northern San Joaquin Valley did kind of fare the best out of this. I'm just gonna challenge that just a little bit because, well, we also added the 7-round trip too. So that does help with that particular segment. We were pleased to see that in the South, we saw some positive gains there because that area had been seeing a little bit of a drop off in ridership. So we've been really making some efforts to try to get the marketing out, having some investment in some outdoor signage, everything to really just make sure that people still recognize that the service is there to serve them. Now, this is also one of the slides that I really, am really proud as a team that we've been able to show here is the throughway ridership. I think we all know that this is, part of the vitality of the service overall, with over half of our riders having a bus component to their trip, either at the beginning, during, middle, and, what have you. And so what we've been able to see is just some regular steady growth. So despite, any of the service levels, any of the changes that we've had being, where we had to cancel trains in some instances, the buses held strong all the way through and they've continued to hold strong. So that really is an area. So when you think about, what Michael and his team are doing with adding Route 5, we know that we can deliver this mode of travel successfully. And we also have the skill set to be able to integrate it into the rest of the service. So I think what we can expect to see here is some continual growth. So as we look at opportunities, like you mentioned, Lake County, what do we got, what do we have to think about to really make sure that we are serving the breadth of the riderships and communities that we need to along the route? And then, just kind of looking ahead, because I'm always thinking, okay, what can we do differently? But also let's take in a lot of the feedback that we received from the community, from, this committee as well. And so last year there was a challenge. I said, what about ferry? Can we do something to make sure that people are aware that there's a connection? So Renee has, along with his colleagues, been able to establish a partnership officially with the San Francisco Bay Ferry. So they are advertising our service and vice versa, really to let people know that there are different ways of being able to connect and travel using both services. We also did initiate a partnership with Stock and King, so we're really excited about that one. There's a lot of energy around that. For passenger experience, let's face it, I'm going to put the mic down for a second. There will be a time where I come and just tell you all the wonderful things that are happening in the world of food and beverage for the Gold Winter Service. I can't tell you all the things that are happening today, but they are closer than they've ever been as far as like where we had to really draw back from. And so with that, we invested in bringing on an onboard experience manager. So Marissa joined us last November, and already she's been able to just really think innovatively. How can we deliver, a service that one, we're proud of, but two, just continues to raise the bar. So having to come all the way back to complimentary, but you know what? We did the snack stations. They're working, but we want to do more. So what more looks like is, we want to be able to actually, one, control some of the inventory a little bit better. So, there are folks who sometimes take a little bit more than what they need. And so we just want to balance that out, of course. And so being able to implement cart service. So we had to go through a process of really identifying, okay, what could we put on board, but also what's the other main purpose of that? Well, we get the feedback, we see it on social, I'm sure you all do. Hey, you give us hot water, hot soda, all these other things, Well, we're working on that too. So now we've been able to acquire coolers that we are placing on all the trains as well. And then being able to install some freezers at destinations along the route. And so the idea being, well, you know what? We will get those back, we will deliver them at your seat. So that's what we're working towards right now. And then vending, finally, we're closer than we've ever been. So by next month, we should have the first iteration of the vending pilot on board a train. The machines won't be active to the public, but the idea is we can now start getting to that point where they are loaded onto the trains. So that way we can test, make sure that they pass all of the snuff kind of tests that we need to ensure that, one, they can operate reliably, safely on board the trains, and that we have a process where we can replenish them throughout the route. And then Comfort Class, you got a pretty detailed presentation on that back in February. We're continuing to move forward. We've just about completed the full study. And the idea is we want to be able to get to that point of delivering what would be our Comfort Class. It's our first step towards a business class service. And so, won't be able to go into full detail of what that looks like today, but the idea is we want to make sure that we have a way to really distinguish, a way that people can travel if they so desire. So, we are looking forward to just different amenities that we can offer on board, different aesthetics that we can offer, just to really distinguish what that would look like to be a Comfort Class. And then Janice took over the screen, I think. We'll be back to regular program. See, I didn't memorize all my sentences. It's too
We
quick.
put a lot of time,
So.
sometimes I feel like I look at my slide decks.
And then just another bullet events, we continue to just look for other opportunities and venues to find current and new Gold Runner riders. And so what that looks like is right now we are teaming up to be able to have our presence at the Lodi Grape Festival, as well as we've just entered into some of the early stages of the partnership for the Aftershock Festival, which is in Sacramento. So we're looking at some of those large, highly attended venues to be able to again get our name out there. And then on the engagement side of things, we're also looking at, this is our year to be able to do our onboard and market survey to really help us assess how are we doing, overall as managing the service, but also what's the market telling us? What are the opportunities that we may not pick up? So we'll work with our teams internally to be able to figure out what kind of data we need to be able to look into. And then lastly, one of the new initiatives, I think you've heard us talk about our student ambassador program. That's been going really well. We've got that down kind of programmatically now. Well, we've also been investing in our senior ambassador program, because we know that we have such a strong community of seniors that either rely on the service or are willing to tell about the service, or they just are advocates that will always stand by us. And so we're looking at ways for them to be able to share their journeys and their experiences with larger communities. And so we've already been able to do a couple blog posts from them, and we'll continue to develop some media on the website so that way folks can just learn about what the service has to offer. And with that, next slide. Oh, sorry, I'll have control. They took it away and got it back. All right, and then with that, I will take any questions.
All right, are there any questions?
I got a question for you. Sam from San Francisco again. I'm looking at the ridership per capita. It looks like the Bay Area is kind of by far the lowest ridership per capita. And then San Francisco also has by far the lowest car ownership percentage in the state by county. I'm curious what sort of efforts you have in mind to for riders specifically in Oakland, San Francisco, the Bay Area to try and serve that, call it customer without a car, or whoever in the Bay Area for that matter.
Yeah, great question. I think, Sam, this is one that you've always kind of come back to us to challenge us to see, what are we doing? What does that look like? And one is, of course, when you look at the per capita, those kinds of numbers, well, what we always have to remember is that we have 5 trains coming in and out of the Bay Area every day, so we don't have the volume to be able to serve as many. And so also, we're not a service that operates solely within the Bay Area. So, when you're thinking about the service, it really is closer to long distance more so than anything else. That being said, we understand the importance and relevance of that market. And so what we do there actively is we do have an outreach team that is there on the ground in the Bay Area, one, to help us get our name out there. So important places like college campuses. So UC Berkeley has been a partner of ours for several years now, also working with USF and other entities all around there to really be able to champion us. We partnered with hotels. We also partnered with the city of Oakland on a number of initiatives. So the name is out there. People understand that we are there, that they can use us as a service. I think that what you see is just that we are also drawing in a leisure market as well. And so you may not see the frequency of ridership there, but you also still see a good number of riders that are actively using the service in the Bay Area.
Yeah, and can I comment on Sam and then I want to piggyback off that. Just as a ridership perspective. So we go to Richmond and take part in. So that's probably taking some of the ridership off. Decided to go to Emeryville, take the bus across because we hadn't done that. So we've done the other a lot, like dozens of times. It was. I just want to give some feedback on the return trip. It's at the transit center. Really hard to know what bus to get on, and the signage was really confusing, and we were getting on the street as opposed to in the transit center. I know that there's all sorts of things that are reasons that are happening. That being said, from a ridership perspective, it was super stressful to get onto that bus to get back for someone who's very, very experienced in transit. So it might be just something to kind of look at and maybe talk to some of the riders as they're going back and forth. Specifically going from San Francisco back to Embryville and just figuring out kind of some of there's some low hanging fruit, I think, that could be made a little bit easier.
It's almost like you have a crystal ball into what we have coming up. You sound with me, but no, we are working with our team in San Francisco to do a little bit of the station activation for that very reason. Because we want to make sure that, the public understands that we are there, how they can utilize the service. So one, bringing a little bit more awareness, but also two, encouraging some travel. So just letting them know where they can travel to using our service, because it is way different than any other stop that we have right now, and especially in an area like San Francisco. I think it's one where it's not ideal. We are continually pushing for alternatives, and so that narrative lives with us as much as it probably lives with our riders as well.
I've said this in the past, but I was really excited to see your San Francisco Bay Ferry thing. The walk from the ferry terminal to the walk to the train station isn't too far off from a walk in an airport from a gate to a gate. And the ferry is really easy to take. It's really nice. So I was excited to see that on your slides.
Yeah, I think the very first person from San Francisco suggested that 10 years ago. So I'm glad to see that kind of come to fruition.
That was me.
I've been talking about me all the time about the ferry and telling people how they need to take it. So see, look, 10 years later, here we are. So great.
Yeah, watch that Frank Sinatra video about him taking the ferry from Oakland across to San Francisco after getting off the train. Anyway, small aside, but it's kind of cool.
Sorry to interrupt. Tim, go ahead.
Yeah, no, just a few comments. First, it's encouraging to see on the food and beverage side the efforts being made. I know the reasons why some of those, obviously with budget constraints at one point, but I do think, especially for some of these longer trips, bringing those, I don't even necessarily call them amenities. Some of these are just necessities. I mean, people need to have access to cold beverages, food, and so hopefully over time. You referenced UC Berkeley. I think a key partner potentially could be UC Merced, particularly as they look to grow enrollment. And we're in the Bay Area, we're working closely with UC Merced because they're trying to attract more Bay Area students. It's one of their growth strategies. And I really do think that partnership with Merced to their students, a number of them coming from the Bay Area, to try to really promote the services and the access points, using rail. I think that's a growth opportunity. I think two other growth opportunities to think about in terms of speaking to Sam's point about those Bay Area metrics. Hercules, I know that they're looking to do the Hercules hub. They got the ferry service there. They're doing all the right things in terms of just the zoning for residential. They're trying to do, transit-oriented communities. And I think there's an opportunity, if we can bring that rail service there as part of that hub, and really, I think could be active. And then of course, Valley Link and Livermore, that BART ACE connection via Valley Link, again, trying to beef up those riders and being able to get people to utilize the system. I think those are a couple critical connection points that might help with those numbers.
Take care, appreciate that.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm on this board because I'm representing the interests of Humboldt County. I don't think it's any secret that food service is not ideal. And I would like folks to put themselves in the position of a Humboldt County student going to Humboldt Cal Poly, who lives in the Bay Area and wants to commute by train. And they get into a bus seat for 6 hours, and then they get into a train seat. And if they're say going to LA or San Diego, then they're in their train seat for 6 hours and then another bus for another 2.5 hours, and then another train seat. So it's like a 17-hour journey if you happen to go to Humboldt State and happen to live in the LA area. It's quite a long time. Imagine yourself in an airplane seat for 12, 15, 14 hours, nowhere to go. You can go food situation is uncertain. It's really too bad that this this outfit decided to get rid of the cafe car, because then you had somewhere to go where you could get food, you could sit down, and you could have an alternative place to relax and not feel like you had to sit in this little seat for pretty much an entire day, whether it's a seat on a bus or a train. I'm really not looking favorably upon current food service and plans for the future. So I think that we need to find a way to bring back the cafe car. So I'll leave it there. I know there's financial obligations and situations that involve it, but it really look at the Surfliner has at least a place where you can go and get food. The Capitol Corridor has places where all those lobbyists going to Washington, excuse me, going to Sacramento can get their alcohol. But train going down the San Joaquin Valley is out of luck. You're stuck in your seat with a bag of potato chips.
Question about Loda. Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, just, again, I came in from Bakersfield and yeah, I mean, we need to have something, better. I know in the past we talked about this mobile food vending pilot. I mean, in the food trucks, I didn't see any this morning. I understand they're probably not in the morning, but still, those opportunities. I mean, and if you get like the cart service, and just definitely publicize it so that I know there's people that are avoiding the train because they don't want to be stuck with potato chips and soda. So when you get the carts going, and then when you get the vending going, that would really alleviate some of, as Tim said, the uncertainty of, well, I don't have a place to eat. I have to, go buy a sandwich, and pack it in my, in my bag. We need something, I don't necessarily know if we need full-on food service with an attendant and all that comes with it, but certainly something, at a higher level that's, consistent, with your budget.
People shouldn't feel that they're forced to sit in the seat for what is an equivalent amount of time for a flight to Europe. Okay, we're just talking about going up and down the state. We need to give people a feeling that they're getting their money's worth, which doesn't happen when you're stuck in a bus seat.
Yeah, that made me think of like how you pre-order food on the airlines now. And you get your little box. So I know you probably talked about all this stuff, but.
No, I think it's an important aspect to the service and where we're at, because I think we are all of us in this room on the same page. And I think if anything, just know that, our team is doing everything within our capability to be able to move the needle in every direction that we can. And it's not always going to be able to move at the pace that we want, but doesn't mean we're going to stop. So.
No, that's why John is here. We need John's voice every single time to remind us about food, because I think what you're talking about is the humanity of doing equal writing and keeping that humanity alive. So
yeah, I look forward to one day being able to say that we've done it. But until then, we all need to keep it active because it's not a low priority. It is, absolute priority.
Sure. I just have a question about Lodi. I know this is short, but I'm thinking 31. The new rail is going to bypass where the Lodi station is now. And so kind of already thinking about if we're building out something in Lodi to get ridership in, how is that going to look in 31 when we move to the new station and it's not connected to the downtown? And so kind of just, I'd be really curious to be in those conversations of how are we making this so that this can be a sustainable relationship rather than 31 comes and then we just are like, oh, well, it's not the same place. We can't do that anymore, which is often what I kind of face within spaces that are working really, really hard to build out the community and build out the people. And that becomes problematic, so. Anyway, just a thought. What was that? Oh, good, yeah. All right, any other questions? Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, thank you both. All right, we are going now down what was originally number 9, oh, excuse me, number 8. And we're doing the San Joaquin Joint Powers Authority Planning, Grants, and Programming Update.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mona Palpi. I'm the Deputy Director of Planning, Grants, and Programming. I am here to provide updates on all the activities that our planning, grants, and programming department is working on. So we are switching gears to so one of the biggest things that our team does is applying for more grants. And so in calendar year 2026, we have been very busy applying for a lot of large federal and state and local grant program. And so I just wanted to list a few of them as an example.
Will you just pause just to mention how the train goes by? I don't think we'll be able to hear. Okay, this is the first train. Wow.
Just the board, great trade.
Yeah.
Nice loud board versus, the global world switching over, which are also loud, but they're not as.
Right. All right, I think you can resume. Thank you.
So the first grant that we applied for, this was from the federal government, it's called the Fed State Partnership Grant. So this was a huge grant, available like $2 billion or so. So we kind of went big, and so we applied for $217 million for the Thomas Scale House Society in San Joaquin Street layover. Unfortunately, we recently received the news that we were not selected for the award, but we tried anyway. And then the next program that we applied for is a state program coming from the California State Transportation Agency. It's called the Transit Inner City Rail Capital Program. We applied for $50.75 million for Newark Outbreak Siting, Cabral Track Extension, and Altamont Interregional Mobility Hub Network Integration Study. This study was in partnership with Valley Link for us to work together for service connectivity, and then the award is scheduled for September.
So we did get that one.
We don't know yet.
Oh, we don't know.
We will be
notified
in September.
Okay, yes. Yeah.
We also applied for Consolidated Rail Infrastructure and Safety Program. This one was from the Federal Railroad Administration. We also went big on this one. We applied for $260 million for Cabral Track Extension and Lodi Station and Track. And then most recently, I worked with Marcus to apply for the Advanced Transportation Technology and Innovation Grant. This was given from Federal Highway Administration, but also passenger rail project is eligible under this grant program. So we put in application for $12 million for passenger rail integrated system organization project, which include like Wi-Fi upgrade and passenger information system display. With that, I am going to hand it over to Michael to provide the planning update.
Thank you, Mama. So I'll be updating on a couple of planning efforts that we are leading at the authority with the Rail Commission. Starting with the Del Paso Action Plan. This is kind of a localized transit or station area focused effort in North Sacramento. We received a grant through the Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant Program. and partnered with SACOG, the regional planning agency in Sacramento, City of Sacramento, and SACRT. And this action plan really will define measures for development of a safe and vibrant station area and that future station. Encourage infill growth, reduce vehicle reliance, and enhance connectivity between the local and regional transit services. And so right now we are in the midst of developing alternatives with consultant support, and we'll have kind of an internal review and a draft plan out that fall. This is kind of the North Sacramento area that we are studying around our station area in pink there. It's actually really well positioned in the region with light rail about a block away at the closest station. And that purple line you kind of see running diagonally north to south is, of course, our Valley Rail extension, with the Midtown station just to the south and the Thomas just to the north. So it's positioned between these two stations. And again, like I said, there will be a draft plan out towards the fall, and we'll be having a public kind of workshop in September. So looking ahead at a different effort, this is a much broader and valley-wide effort that we've termed the San Joaquin Network Integration Study. And this is really in partnership with our San Joaquin Valley Policy Council. Now, Policy Council is made up of elected leadership of the 8 San Joaquin Valley counties, of course, San Joaquin County down to Kern County, as well as the Air Pollution Control District and the JPA. So there's 10 members total. And executive staff from all the regional planning agencies also help inform the Policy Council to present and priorities. From that Policy Council, the JPA helped set up a new working group that focuses on passenger rail transit and land use. It's a collaborative group, again, that we lead along with the RTPA staff, high-speed rail, and Caltrans. And really, this is looking to guide regional planning efforts to emphasize rail and transit connections and opportunities throughout the valley, and advise on transit supportive land use. So the Policy Council for a long time has really focused on improvements to State Route 99. So this working group is set up to do kind of that same lift on the rail and transit side, and leverage our collective power of the regional agencies and JPA to support transit and rail projects. And this also presents another opportunity to support Valley Rail implementation and high-speed rail coordination, and take advantage of those large investments throughout the San Joaquin Valley. And we do have a dedicated webpage up on the Policy Council's website. Find there. So working from that, we've brought about the San Joaquin Network Integration Action Plan. And this is really a priority effort of that working group to help bring resources to help coordinate that plan. So we've got on consultants that's funded through another Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant. And of course, we are the lead through that planning grant effort. So again, the action plan, it really dives in and focuses on identifying and prioritizing short, mid, and long-term investments that will advance planning and connectivity throughout the valley, look at rail and transit network integration, especially as high-speed rail comes online, and stationary and land use TOD action planning to really help coordinate our systems, our transit and rail systems with all the communities that we serve up and down the valley. And so again, because of the wide geography that we're working on, we're looking to set up a September public meeting that will be virtual, and we'll certainly share that link after today's meeting with a draft of that action plan for review in early 2027. So with that, that's our planning, grants, and programming updates for today.
And that draft is for how many years? I mean, that action plan is for how many years?
So we're looking for kind of short, mid, and long-term efforts, both funding opportunities and projects themselves. And so we'll be detailing out kind of where those line up
I guess I'm trying to ask you for a definition, what do you consider short, mid, and long?
So short is usually within like the 1 to 2 year time span, 5 years would be out to the mid. And longer from there. We're still defining exactly what years that might look like, but we certainly want to align those timelines with like Valley Rail and high-speed rail delivery as well.
Okay, yeah, that's just helpful to make sure I was thinking the same.
Certainly.
All right, are there any questions?
Just a quick comment, and I know why, but I was going to say, in any way, I need to articulate this. Munich, Germany, it's all stacked in one building. S-Bahn, U-Bahn, and ICE, all in the same building, and you never leave it. When we consider success, we're a block away, really, and it's January, and you gotta walk in the rain to the next station. I can't believe that's the best that we can do as a society. And I know I'm the road commissioner for my county, we don't have enough money for roads either. But it's just one of those things where it makes my eye twitch that we can't get our connections in the same building. Or even, so at least this one's walkable that you showed us, but like Bart and Pace, they're 3 miles apart, so come on. And I know that's $1 billion project or more, 2 billion. It just is mildly frustrating for it if we're really gonna take off and get ridership. You need to make it easy, and nobody wants to walk in the rain. Or when it's 110, we gotta do better. And I know it's fun, right? We're doing the best we can with what we got. I get it. It's just editorial comment from Dave. Right.
I got a question, Sam, from San Francisco here. When you talk about the medium and long-term plan, of course, self-driving cars are coming. Say what you want about them, but they're on their way. How are we planning for that opportunity, both with our stations and network, and who we might be able to serve from a planning perspective, of course?
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the comment. It's something that, like you say, it is coming. It's somewhat of a newer technology, but certainly something that needs to be thought about and integrated into the new plans and planning efforts in the future as well.
One comment that I think would be pretty cool, the previous comment on connections for $1 billion, maybe a little out of hand, but we have like a taxi stand at an airport, which is a sign and is really cheap, and a partnership with a self-driving car company or organization or planning for that in the future could be really inexpensive to have a lineup of self-driving cars there when the train arrives and you hop in it and go from there. That type of connection could be really inexpensive. And if we start planning and thinking about it now, is something we could really make happen in 3, 5, 10 years.
Yeah, thank you for
Any other questions or comments online?
Seeing none online.
And you good?
I'm good.
All right. Okay, moving on to what was 9, it's now 11. Am I in the right spot? Yes.
Yes.
Thruway bus study update.
Great, good afternoon. Nice to see you in person and those of you online as well. Dan Levitt, manager of regional initiatives. I think most of you have known me over the years. And we've had a number of discussions through the course of today about Thruway bus services that have come up many times. Pleased to let you know we do have this Thruway bus study underway, and it has been kind of identified. I think most of you are aware of the services. It's a very large part of what we do with the Gold Runner. This network extends as far north as Cal Poly Humboldt, far south of San Diego, and then also even to Las Vegas. And so truly it makes us a statewide service that is really key to the Gold Runner success. Typically in an average year, about 55% of our passengers use a Gold Runner Thruway bus on at least one part of their trip, and sometimes 2 parts of their trips. So this is something that, again, is super important. And so we are having this Thruway bus study underway to put together a report on the status of our services and deliver specific feasible short-term recommendations for how we might improve upon our throughway bus network. We've come up with several goals for our services, including having a preferred and convenient option for intercity travelers that connects to our Gold Runner rail services and helps increase Gold Runner ridership, provide cost-effective services. And this is particularly important with the constraints that are currently on our primary funding source, the public transportation account, state funding. We're looking to provide effective business models, governance structures for our various routes, and provide safe, reliable, competitive connectivity to key markets throughout California. We did put up a webpage. I hope you had a chance to see it. If not, maybe after this meeting, take a look at our webpage up on the SJVRC website. It was put up in early June. We do have a lot of information already available on that website, including a draft of our Chapter 1 for the report that's coming soon. This is an introduction to the report, includes background information about the JPA and the bus network. It discusses the state's expectations for cost effectiveness for our throughway bus routes, the governance structure of the various routes that we run, and describes the public outreach that we are undertaking as part of this effort. And includes an outreach plan and public engagement strategy as part of that appendix to that Chapter 1. We also have throughway bus data for each of the routes that's available as well on the webpage, and a survey that asks people about what they think about our service and offers them an opportunity to give suggestions for improvement. We did, after putting up the webpage, we did do initial outreach, and that was really to try to gauge people's feelings about the throughway bus services in general before we actually put out a draft report and get suggestions for them of things they would like to see in terms of improvements or changes. That was actually, I'm looking here at my slide note for. Sorry, I skipped ahead in my thinking. First of all, cost effectiveness. I mentioned that's a really important part of the study. That's something that we don't define as much as it's something that's in state statute. And for the way the state actually defines cost effectiveness is that we take the bus revenue plus the train revenue from those passengers as well who are connecting to our trains, and then we divide that by the cost of providing the bus. And the expectation is that the revenue generated from the bus portion and the train portion will exceed the bus cost for the service. And so that's the state's looking for, when it considers a cost-effective service, is one of the revenue for both the train and the bus exceed the actual cost of the bus. And here's what I was getting at, sorry, it's getting ahead of myself. We went out and did this initial outreach. Once we put up the webpage, kind of gauged where people were, we then presented that along with the information about the study to our board at their July 16th board meeting. And we do have an appendix and sort of attachments to that staff report, which basically summarize all the comments that we received in the period between June and July. We also had a number of discussions with agencies really throughout the state, including state agencies like CalSTA and Caltrans, Amtrak, Capital Corridor, Civic Turf Line Area, Little Sand Joint Powers Authority, and our San Joaquin Valley Regional Policy Council working group as well. And then other agencies, organizations like RailPac, and then talking with Greyhound and FlixBus as well. This study is going to be done over a 6-month period, so it's pretty short. We do expect to have a draft of our report completed by September and get that available on our webpage. Once we have the draft out, which will include recommendations for each route, we'll be doing additional public outreach to make sure that agencies and the public know about the availability of the document and have the ability to give input on that draft. We then are looking to bring the draft as the action item to our board at the November 20th SJVRC board meeting, ask for them to take action to approve the report. And then I'm going to now turn over the other part of the presentation over to Renee Gutierrez, who's been really leading sort of the public outreach part of this effort.
Good afternoon. So the outreach campaign included social media, engagement promotion on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, collected over 4,000 views collectively on all the platforms, including shares and comments. Increasing brand awareness of the Gold Runner service and dragging them to the bus study landing page that Dan described. Email marketing to the authority contact list of 500 plus members. Onboard rider engagement, stakeholder briefings that Dan described. And direct outreach to trans agencies, regional planning organizations, rail partners, and advocacy groups. From the dedicated landing page, we got 800 plus page visits, 25 free form submittals. Through the survey process, we had 500 plus survey visits, over 100 completed surveys in the first initial outreach time period. Survey distribution through bus operators on board the train. Rider engagement activities included authority staff and authority working group members completing ride-alongs on select authority bus routes and conducted onboard observations. Next steps, station activations in some of our key authority bus connections, for example, Bakersfield, Fresno, Merced, San Joaquin Street, Sac Station, Emeryville, to continue speaking with riders, distributing surveys and getting feedback for the upcoming phase 2 outreach process. Dan described the survey results that were provided to the JPA board. They're in our landing page, but this is just some of the key takeaways. Overall, the riders or overall the respondents express positive feedback and experience of our three-way bus connection and service. They provided highest priorities, including improving reliability and on-time performance of the three-way bus service, increasing service frequency. I think you guys touched upon that element today. Improving regional connections and expanding destinations to increase ridership. And some of the direct feedback questions, questions 9, 12, and 13, located in that same document on the landing page, were continued support for bus-only ticketing, enhanced coordination with local transit and rail services, improve passenger amenities and comfort, and then live bus tracking. It's just a few of the responses. Like I said, we had over 100 plus responses, but that's just a brief summary. So that concludes our initial outreach feedback and responses. Well, any questions?
Any questions?
Seeing none online.
That social media algorithm keeps it from getting out there, so that's tough. How many people are following on Instagram and Facebook? Have that number?
I should know that because we reviewed every month, but I'll get back to you on the exact.
Yeah, I would be
forward
curious.
for all the platforms, but
Yeah, how to push that out a little bit more, because that is an access point that's kind of a very narrow thing to get through with the algorithms. It's
I
hard.
appreciate the plug. If you don't follow us on social media, follow us.
And for the one I run, I'm like, boys, you have your homework, go watch that 30-second video. So my two boys have to watch it. And they have to watch it all the way to the end. So all those things matter. So anyway.
Yeah, our creative team is always trying to find a way to stay on top of what's trending and being good in the algorithm. But
Yeah, and it's shifting right now. So it's always shifting, but it's really shifting on kind of how they're pushing it out. So yeah, I commend them for the challenge that they do. So any other questions? Hank?
So regarding throughway bus study, so is it part of that also going to be looking at other destinations or possibly looking at services? I remember one of the questionnaires was to ask about like potential service opportunities. I know, like, for example, the throughway bus used to go all the way to from Bakersfield to Palm Springs, and now it ends in San Bernardino. I mean, that's a long haul. But I think after COVID, I remember because I live out in the San Gabriel Valley, and there used to be 4 trips on throughway to the east, and now there's only 2. to the eastern part of the LA region. So, you know, those are kind of, I think somebody had even suggested, I remember reading the reports like, well, maybe you have something from Bakersfield to LAX, especially with the new LAX terminal, the ground transportation center, or even, you know, Bakersfield to the Van Nuys flyover, where, you know, they could connect if you don't want to drive over to 405, which certainly, you know, anybody who's lived in Southern California, I certainly completely understand if you don't want to do that. So, you know, those are like, talk about like what the end goal of the study in terms of, you know, destinations would be.
That we've raised, I mean, certainly we will be considering opportunities to expand. I think some of the ones you mentioned, part of the difficulty, those ones that we did cut, like you mentioned, like Indio and Hemet that went out to the Palm Springs area. Those even before the pandemic were not cost-effective routes, and so relatively few people were taking them. But we certainly can be looking at where we might be able to expand. Where it's difficult is with the pressures on the public transportation account. Certainly looking at like the Route 5 that Michael talked about is sort of a new model that might be able to allow us to go to other places if we can find partners that can help reduce the sort of what's needed for the public transportation account. So certainly we'll be looking at that's how well that particular service goes, because that is actually, by doing the Route 5, that is helping make Route 3 more cost effective, because the piece between Chico and Redding was actually the least cost effective portion of the route. So now we've really strengthened Route 3 to be a very cost effective route by sort of taking that off and creating a partnership. And those are some things that we could be looking at for other parts of the state that might be similar that we can do. And then looking at even a place like Palm Springs, maybe there's an opportunity for seasonal traffic. Maybe it's not all year, but maybe there's certain times of the year where we can do something that could be very cost effective to serve some of those communities. So those are things that we do need to look at. You mentioned the reductions, and I think that is something our report will highlight, that we did take a number of actions, not only during the pandemic that we kept after the pandemic, but then even after the years passed, because the pandemic led to very high cost increases to the operational costs, and yet the revenue wasn't coming in as quick, and so that really put a pressure in terms of what these routes were costing. So we did make some of the reductions, as you mentioned. But I think that you'll see the results is that actually led to we made tough decisions, but it led to very cost-effective routes where even though the cost had been increasing for operations as a whole, the network was retaining its cost-effective as a whole, because we did make those smart decisions. What that really highlights is that we've already made reductions. There isn't really such a great need in these to make further, and we should be looking at places where we might be able to expand.
Yeah, and definitely looking at, you know, those partnerships. I know, like, I think, wasn't it at the previous meeting that the Bakersfield route was reduced to just a school, you know, just a Cal Poly focus based on their school schedule. So yeah, I mean, certainly there's a lot of, you know, tough decisions that need to be made, but, you know, folks like, I'm not car free like Sam might be, but certainly there's a larger, especially with younger people, where they are more car free, and so creating that network and of course publicizing that network, which, you know, the Gold Runner, by changing its name to Gold Runner, is more reflective of California. I support that name change. So, but we also need to, you know, again, California is a big state. It's tough to market to it, but, you know, just getting that knowledge out there that, you know, the Gold Runner is a service that serves all of California.
Yeah, that's part of the report, as well as to get information about our routes out and to make recommendations. But some of those recommendations are things like you talk about, where we can figure out how we can better partner with other agencies that we connect with, and areas of marketing. What can we do? Marcus talked about the outreach to colleges and things. What that's the area we can, you know, be working on too, to help improve ridership. So it's not just route changes that we can look at, but also how we do our partnerships throughout the state.
Okay, thank you.
I always love the partnership with the National Park Service in Yosemite National Park, and probably a lot of us read about the traffic issues, whatever you want to call it, they were having earlier this year. You know, obviously Yards does that, and we have that connection, but it seemed kind of cool if they gate entry for automobiles, and maybe some sort of way to say you visit the park without a car. We'd love to have you.
Yeah, that's one, actually, it would be good for us to have a further conversation. I definitely like to, I know you're one who does that trip. That's a trip that we should get, you think, a lot of passengers, but we have struggled over the years to get people to utilize the arts connection. And partly it seems that there's some, obviously arts is not tied to our service the way some are with sort of the guaranteed connections, and that might be part of it. So we're trying to figure out how we can be creative on that. But we have struggled with it for riders.
Yeah,
I would like to talk with you more about that.
Hi, I'd like to comment on that. Gloria Valavinas here. I'm a part of Visit Merced, and one of the big things we're actually trying to do is connect with the Bay Area. And we recently posted a video about riding the yards for Merced, and it got 500,000 views. And that was really big because it showed it had over 2,000 shares, over 8,000 likes. And that was our first post, just saying, hey, you can ride the yards from Merced. And so please, that's a big thing that we're kind of working on. So whoever I can connect with, I'll send my email afterwards as well, because that's a really big thing that we're trying to kind of help bridge that gap. And we're a new organization, and I think that that's maybe the missing piece. So happy to connect over that, but very exciting to see the interest. Again, it had 500,000 views, almost 600,000 in a week. So that's a really big deal. People want it. They probably just don't know about it.
Hey, Gloria, was that video, did it talk about the connection to the Gold Runner, or was it focused on yards?
It was focused on yards, but I also did one about the Route 40, and that also got a pretty good movement on our socials as well. We're just trying to figure out, same thing, how do we make people connect to Merced without having to drive here? So happy to continue that conversation offline, though, because it is of interest for us as well.
Great, we definitely need to talk with you more too, because that's something that fits in terms of what we can do that can help get the word out more about this opportunity. Great,
happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan and Renee. Great presentation. I actually want to go back to the comment the chair made earlier about Lake County, and I do think as you're thinking about Thruway, and I don't know how the North Bay, Sonoma, Lake County, but in glancing at the service, it seems like that might be an underserved area that maybe we could tap into potentially. I don't know if you're looking at future expansion, if there's any other opportunities there.
We do, we serve Sonoma County, we have stops, we don't serve Sonoma directly, we serve, we have a stop at Petaluma, we have one in Santa Rosa, we have one in Roanoke Park, we do have one in Napa. So we serve that general area. We do pretty good on the ridership. That's part of Route 7. And so we are looking at, that's part of our thing. So look at how we might, part of it's too, can we connect with Smart, the service at Petaluma. We're looking, they are expanding. And so we also do serve Healdsburg and we serve Cloverdale. We have very low ridership at those two stops, but we're seeing if they, with Smart, how we can do connections there, that hopefully the future will improve upon that.
Yeah, I think Lake County is the potential missing piece. It's a huge county, it's underserved, so just maybe want to look at in terms of just some of those ridership.
Thank you.
All right, any others? Moving on to item 12, committee member comments. Beyond what we've done. So
none of mine.
Okay, I just like to comment, we haven't had quorum for 2 meetings now, and so kind of problem solving, what does it mean? I think we started this iteration in 2016, so we are 10 years, and I know that there's been attrition in that time. And originally, some of you who've been here a long time, I think it was two representatives from each county, is that correct? I don't know if that's still in it, or that's, so I know my county is 1 representative, so I know that there's room for growth there. What is our number to get for? What would that look like?
We need a total of 16 for a quorum. We technically have 30 seats open and only, I want to say 19 fit. So
okay. All right, so anyway, I just want to put that out there because I think, 1, it's great to have people like me and Sam who've been here a long time. because we have some memory. And then it's also nice to have like, with Gloria, who has a new voice and a new perspectives that we haven't had. So anyway. Any other comments here?
Kind of related to that question, is that a statutory thing that is our number, or what is that where we can, I do think that, yeah, people that are not responding or not, they should be kicked off and, removed from the count. If that's possible, but I don't know if it's statutory or not.
The committee is statutory. I need to go back and look again to see if it is, but I mean, it talks about the representation. I'm not sure that it actually states the numbers, but I know that the Ariana in the clerk's office is working with Renee to see what we can do for outreach in the various jurisdictions to get more people. As we said, there are, and look my number again, 30 seats. We only have 19 filled right now. So the push is to get more representation. And I just want to, this is my first meeting. You all got great feedback. So appreciate it for those of you in person and online. Yeah, thank you.
Well, both. I didn't vote.
No, that's okay. I've actually been here for 3 years, but this is my first committee week, yes.
Is there an easy way to get the 11, like, do we need to recruit in our county? I don't know, that's like, where are the 11 seats at?
We'll reach out.
That would be good to know, so.
And probably the easiest is to start with our existing committee members, and especially those of you who served for a long time, because then you will know who in your communities might be interested.
So like I got here through the Citizens Advisory Committee. And I know other people get here from like governmental roles. And I think that the mix of that is really, really helpful to have the citizens and the governmental, like David here has a very different perspective from me, and we can play with that. So I think that there's a lot of ways that we can recruit.
And the Citizens Advisory Committee was the genesis for this.
Right, yeah. And so anyway, I just would like some new voices because I think it's important to have both.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up. If you have 11 vacancies, if you have only 19 people and you gotta hit 16 to hit a quorum, especially with people having other day jobs and everything else, that's real difficult.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, we're able to fill those seats out of a few.
So anyway, I know that that's kind of a work in progress, and so just know that it's not, I don't feel pressure. This needs to happen. I just think it would be great. All right, any other questions or comments? Ariana, see any online?
None online.
Okay, it looks like we haven't approved this. We're unofficially going to be meeting again on February 19th at 12 noon here, both in person and online. Is that correct? Okay. And with that, we are going to adjourn. Thank you.
All right, thank you.